My name is Mariel Aguilar Støen, and I feel extremely honored, humble, and happy to be your host today. Welcome to the 20 years of the Students' Peace Prize event, an initiative from volunteers at the International Student Festival in Trondheim. The prize is awarded on behalf of all students of Norway to students or student organizations working to promote peace, human rights, and democracy. To this day, 11 students and students' organizations from Libya, Burma, East Timor, Zimbabwe, Colombia, Thailand, West Sahara, Croatia, Iran, and Bahrain have received the prize. We are lucky enough to have 8 of them today here. Unfortunately, 3 of them were not able to attend this event because they are on exile or because they are sitting in house arrest. Student and children engagement and activism will never stop being important. As we have been reminded during the last weeks here in Europe, thousands of children have gone on strike and are marching for climate in Europe. They are angry, and we should listen. And that shows why children and youth engagement is important and will continue to be important. I chose a career at the university because the views and visions of young people have always challenged me, but they also inspire me. And I have always felt a commitment to stand in solidarity with the youth. I'm sure that listening to the founders of the Student Peace Prize and the laureates tonight will also inspire you. So we are going to have 4 different groups of people here with us today. And we will start with the founders of the Student Peace Award. They were, as many of you are today, they were students here. So I would like to know, please, an applause to welcome Sigvart, Gisle, and Noralf, the founders of the Student Peace Prize. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're very happy to have you here tonight. And you 3, Gisle, Sigvart, and Noralf, are accredited as the founders of the Student Peace Prize. And I would like to start asking to you, what were you doing in Trondheim in 1999? What were you up to?
Well,
we were supposed to study, at least.
all the 3 of us tried to study, but was involved in different things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Me, I was working in the student newspaper, and I was also involved in ISFIT as a leader of the ISFIT Foundation. It's the foundation that look after that ISFIT is held every 2nd year. So that was I doing.
Yeah, and well, I was heading up ISFIT 99, so the festival. Worked, of course, with Noralf as my first counterpart, and then Gisle came together with the team, started to build that up.
But we were also studying a little bit, and we're all up at Støen, right behind us here. So, and involved in different outside of study activities before we engaged in ISFIT in '98.
Yeah.
I have heard some rumors, and you know that sometimes rumors can live their own life. But I would like to ask you if this rumor is true. And I'm sure that many are as curious as I am to hear about how did you came with the idea of the Student Peace Prize. We've heard this rumor that it had to do with some meetings late in the night here at Samfunnet. But please, I want to hear the story from you.
Yeah, okay.
Should start with that.
I'll start that one. It actually happened here in one of the bars at, I think it was probably around 3 a.m. or so. It was one of those late nights where the discussion was with a roommate or a flatmate of mine. He was a bit frustrated because he was heading up one of the fraternities here, and there were surplus pizza money that he was wondering how he could figure out a way to spend. So he came up with this idea: what if we had a prize? And then we were bouncing back and forth, what kind of prizes that could be in terms of essentially having a way of awarding that to one of the students in our class so that we could spend that on the party. So that was around 3:15 probably that night. Eventually the conversation became a little bit more serious, and the inspiration was students had been quite instrumental in several changes at that time. We saw Tiananmen Square, we saw that guy in front of the tanks, but we knew that there were students that were being persecuted for what they stood for, and similarly in Eastern Europe. And somehow that became part of that very late night conversation. And the Student Peace Prize came up as sort of the idea. I think we went to sleep, and I came with pretty baggy eyes and met Gisle here at Edgar the day after. And then I told him that we're going to do a Peace Prize.
And of course that was exciting because we were at that time establishing the organization around ISFIT 99, and we had all these kind of ideas of what to do. And of course ISFIT is also about making something different from festival to festival. Mm-hmm. So we had the festival before us came up with dialogue groups, and we said, okay, we need to have something unique as well. So the idea landed a little bit, but it was a little bit ambitious. So we said, how do you arrange that? How do you build a peace prize? How do you start from scratch with that? So that is when we went to Noralf.
And I remember very well these two guys coming into the office of the newspaper. I was sitting in front of my computer, and I looked at two faces. There was a mixture of a little bit too much partying and at the same time really excitement. And they came in and they told about the idea, and they came to the ISFIT Foundation to ensure that they had the thought that it would be wise that the foundation had this project, because already then it was important to ensure that the Peace Prize would live on after the ISFIT Festival. And I remember very well what I thought when they told me about the idea. I thought, why hadn't anyone thought of this before? Mm. The idea was so obvious. Mm. So then after that meeting we decided, let's go. And then we started this fun and also hard work.
Mm. Thank you. It's great to hear that in 1999 there were computers. I wasn't sure about that, but it's nice to hear.
Yeah,
but,
you had one.
But of course, I have also heard some rumors, because when we are young, or when you were young, I'm still young, one is very little afraid of things. And one thinks that everything is possible.
Yeah.
So did you call anybody and say like, here we come with the Students' Peace Prize and we are going to compete with the Nobel Committee? Did you call anybody and say, here we come?
Yeah, of course we called around. So I had the pleasure of speaking to a few. One was Geir Lundestad, who was the secretary of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee at the time. And it took a while to get a hold of him because he was and probably still is a busy man. And when I finally reached him, I was pitching the concept and the idea. And I could hear that he was impatient to sort of go on to his next meeting or whatever. So I was speaking very fast and finally kind of completed it. And I asked him, do you have any advice? I was silence. And then he says, well, I am at least not opposing it. I'm like, thank you. But then, I turned around and then I told to these guys and the rest of the team that I just spoke to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee and they're enthusiastically embracing the idea. So we can just move on. But I think, jokes aside, I think we really believed very strongly in the idea and we had some inspiration also from earlier ISFIT festivals. In '94, Dalai Lama came here. I think Rina, who was the president out there, she's probably here in the group. We didn't really see that anyone could stop this from happening. So we were more sort of thinking about how to get it right, and also maybe avoiding the one pitfall, which I think we were most concerned about, was to be able to select the right winners.
And you said that we had computers at that time, but actually we just got the World Wide Web. And for those clever students who were sitting together to do the research on the different nominee candidates, they did a really tremendous job, actually. One thing was to gather information about remote areas like East Timor and other places, but the second is to be sure that the information was correct. And that was a really difficult job, and they worked day and night, and I know that they made a very important job, and probably they made the fundament for the Peace Prize taking seriously, because we were able to choose unquestionable candidate, unquestionably laureate, Antero Benedito da Silva.
Yeah, and there has never been a Kissinger.
No,
not yet.
Another point that was also very important at that stage was to make it a national collective prize, not only by ISFIT, but use the arena that ISFIT was to award it, but engage the wider student community of Norway as being the organizations behind. So it was from student to student, not
from ISFIT to students.
Yeah.
And I think we discussed that a lot, actually. How do we balance that and sort of create something that is continuous, also somewhat independent from each of the festivals from year to year, but still make sure that ISFIT, with the fantastic arena that represents, is there both as support, but then also, of course, be the venue for the winners to receive the award. And I think now, 20 years later, when we walked in and saw how the ceremony yesterday, it's great to see. I think that the people that came after us have maintained that balance and really created something wonderful.
And also another thing that we became gradually aware of was the responsibility to host a student peace prize. One thing is to give the peace prize to the laureate, but what happened afterwards? And the way we realized that was that Antero Benedito da Silva got the peace prize in '99 which was a very crucial year for East Timor. For 24 years they had been occupied by Indonesia, but that winter the Indonesians opened up for a referendum so that East Timor could be an independent country. But at the same time, they orchestrated violence. And the students, many of the leaders were imprisoned, so the students in the East Timor Student Solidarity Council who was awarded the prize, it was them that stayed in the cities and went out to the villages to inform the people of Timor about the referendum and said, you should not be afraid, do it. But then it comes to the situation, the referendum is finished, a great majority vote for independence, then the violence comes, and suddenly Antero and several others from the Student Solidarity Council are trapped in the UN compound in the capital, Dili. And Antero sent emails to us and the international contacts, Dili is burning. And he explained how the militias was destroying everything. 2 days after, he wrote a new mail, Dili is burnt. And then we didn't hear anything. And we heard rumors that the UN would withdraw from the compound like they did in Rwanda. And we knew that militias were standing outside with weapons. And we got the information. What should we do? And then, luckily, Antero had met Hilde Frafjord Jonsson, the Minister of Development at that time, so we called the Secretariat for her and asked if we could have a press conference where we could hand over a statement asking the Norwegian government to put pressure on the international society, to push pressure on Indonesia to stop the violence and to let our laureate be in safety. And luckily that happened. But that made us think of, we have a really great responsibility when we host a Student Peace Prize.
And I think you have all reasons to feel proud of the work you did in 1999. But last question I would like to ask you is how this has had an impact in your life and your careers and what you have done after you left the university?
I think I can say something short before you say something long, but I think what is sorry.
Thank you, Gisle.
You have a better story. But I think what is really important and that we experience, not only learned, but also experienced really deep when being part of ISFIT is the mutual respect and commonality of opportunities to bring dialogue and understand each other in this kind of arena where everyone is met as equal. Everyone is here to share experiences, not to judge, not to put barriers into discussions, but to be together and just experience that we are more equal than different. And I think that is something that at least have shaped my thinking around when working internationally for 20 years.
So I go in the middle. And then so I got married to an ISFIT participant, actually. So, I have two children who we can rightfully claim are ISFIT children, 7 and 8 years old. But we also ended up actually traveling a lot, so we've been living abroad, or at least outside of Norway, since 2005, in Pakistan, India, Hungary, Thailand, now New York. So I guess a little bit of that kind of international inspiration and passion still remains. Now.
Well, I think for me, when I see the volunteer students, I feel a bit like them. I think I felt like they feel now. You have an engagement for the society around you, and suddenly you find something that you can channel your engagement into. For me, it became East Timor. I became friend with Antero, and I'm a journalist. I've been written a lot of things about Timor, books and other things in these 20 years. So for me personally, actually, the Peace Prize in '99 became a kind of turning point in my life. And I think we're all very happy to have been part of that. It made impact on our lives, actually.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And we are very happy to hear your stories. And we are soon going to welcome the next participants. So thank you. The next group that is going to be here with us tonight they have been working for a more accessible university education in their respective countries. To make that happen, they have led mass demonstrations and organized huge protests. They have achieved some victories, but they are still working as hard as ever to make the situation better for their nations and their students. And I can tell you, it's not a joke. I was in Colombia in 2012 when these people were fighting on the streets, and it was really, really scary. It was violent. It was police. It was tanks, tear bombs. So it's what they have been through is really admirable. So please welcome on stage Fasiha Hassan and the representatives of ASEU. Welcome. Sara and Omar, they, Latin Americans, we resist the cultural homogenization of the Anglo-English world as much as we can. So they don't speak English, but I will translate what they say. So I really can't wait to start asking questions to you because this is so exciting. I'm going to start with you, Fasiha. Is that correct way to say? Yeah. Okay. And as you all know, she is the winner of the Student Peace Prize of 2019. And you... And you have had a leading role in the movement that is called Peace Must Fall in South Africa. This movement has been fighting for equal rights to education, the reduction of tuition fees, and increased governmental support to the universities. So I'm not going to go around. I'm going to ask a very direct question. We know that universities exist within a historical and material context. And so, to my view, the movement Peace Must Fall is related to the colonial past of South Africa. Can you explain if you agree with me, or how do you see that relationship?
Yeah, so, I don't think this is on.
Are
we good?
Yeah.
Yeah, now, okay, perfect. I can hear myself as well. So yeah, I think you're quite correct. The historic past of South Africa plays a huge role in how they've shaped the education sector. And so as a result of that, we have universities that are very colonial in nature. And it's not just about curriculum, it's about the fact that we have universities that celebrate apartheid prime ministers, for example. The University of Stellenbosch, there are plaques and statues up of those sorts of figures. And a lot of what Peace Must Fall as a social movement has been about removing those symbols. and about saying that we want to restructure higher education in a way that makes it more inclusive. Because for us, that's actually what decolonization is about, including these alternative narratives and these alternative voices. So yes, it's about curriculum, but it's also about university culture. You know, our students feeling empowered in their universities and in their spaces of higher learning. And to a large extent, they're still not. There's still this feeling of students are being done a favor, as opposed to it being the other way around, where students are like, yes, this is in fact my right to study. I deserve to be here, not the other way around. So for me and for the movement, decolonization is fundamental. And it's fundamental to what we're trying to build. In many ways, decolonization is not about destroying. It's about creating something even bigger, even better, and even more inclusive of all these alternative ideas and voices.
So you will say that it's also about hierarchies inside the university, relations between people, and also with nature and with other parts of the world.
Exactly. So one of the things Fees Must Fall did was it forced people to look at the power dynamics in a university. It didn't matter that we had a good enough argument about fees, or that we had done research that the fees were too high. The fact that we were 1 or 2 students on the university board meant that we lost anything that went to a vote. And when we lost that vote and started Fees Must Fall, a lot of people said, well, actually, there's a problem with the power structures of universities because you're not able to really assert yourself as a student. And what we did successfully was remind the university management that they existed for students, not the other way around, that there would be no universities without students.
That's really powerful. Thank you. Now I'm going to go to ask you. I just have to switch to Spanish in my head. No, you have to have them on you because I'm going to ask in English and you answer in Spanish and then I translate. Que voy a hacer la pregunta en inglés y te traducen y yo traduzco lo que vos digas. ¿Sí? Are we okay? Yes. Okay. So I think that maybe I'm going to ask first you a question. That is about... No, I start with Sarah. You won the Student Prize in 2005 for your non-violent fight against increased tuition and privatization of the universities in Colombia. And we can see some similarities with South Africa, but also with many other student movements around the world. And you have now just fought through and secured a deal for better financing for the universities in Colombia. How did you get this deal through? How do you make that be a success?
Okay. Good night, everything. My name is Sara Klinger. I'm from Colombia. I am studying politics science in the University of Cauca. And I love stay here with us, stronger youngers, and stay here with Fasila. She's a stronger woman, intelligent woman, and thank you for everything, and thank you for ISFIT for the invitation. I speak English a little.
Pero dale en castellano, yo traduzco.
Yes, translate. Bueno, nosotros como estudiantes universitarios en el año 2005 fuimos ganadores del premio de paz. Claro que actualmente quienes hoy representamos a la CEU pues no estábamos en el 2005 en la universidad, pero pues hace parte de la historia también que nosotros hoy recibimos de nuestra organización, que el año pasado cumplió 20 años de lucha por la educación pública, gratuita y de calidad, y por la educación y por la paz de Colombia. Este premio lo recibimos en un contexto paramilitar, del cual se estaban persiguiendo estudiantes, del cual había una cuestión también, digamos, de amenazas, asesinatos, situación que actualmente pues, en Colombia no podemos decir que ha cambiado, pero que en su momento recibir el premio de paz fue importante para el movimiento estudiantil, en términos también de generar una presión internacional y hacer una denuncia internacional de lo que estaba sucediendo en Colombia, y pues también a partir de ello tratar de que los entes que estaban ejerciendo dichas acciones pudieran, digamos, verse comprometidos ya con una cuestión de orden de opinión pública internacional. Para nuestra organización el premio ha sido bastante importante porque desde su creación ha tenido una bandera clara, que es la solución política al conflicto armado en el país, en el cual durante los últimos años nos hemos movilizado, hemos generado propuestas, hemos participado de los escenarios de construcción de la paz, pero también hemos tratado de poner en el orden del debate cuál es la paz que nosotros hoy queremos para Colombia. Nosotros consideramos que la paz debe ir más allá precisamente del desarme de una guerrilla o de entregar las armas. Si bien eso frena la violencia, nosotros también atravesamos por un conflicto social en el país, y es un conflicto social que se vive precisamente por la inequidad que existe, inequidad en la distribución de la tierra, inequidad en el acceso a la universidad pública, al acceso a los derechos fundamentales, y pues también, digamos, en ese sentido, consideramos que defender la educación y garantizar el acceso a la educación pública, gratuita y de calidad, también es construir la paz y defender la paz con justicia social, como lo hemos denominado.
Ok, si me dejas chancecito para...
Dale.
I don't I'm not sure I'm going to be able to translate word by word. But what Sarah has been telling us is that the Peace Prize was incredibly important to secure international attention to the fight of the students in Colombia and for the end of the civil war in Colombia. And they were also very interested in supporting the political solution to the conflict. And that they see students in Colombia see peace building as something that is more and something that is bigger than just disarmament. And their fight for access to education and for having education as a right is, in a way, is directed to fighting inequality in Colombia. And education is a way to defend peace.
Frente al acuerdo que hemos tenido con el gobierno nacional, se da a partir precisamente de una lucha histórica del movimiento estudiantil, que incluso otras generaciones la han catalogado como histórica, precisamente por las acciones que se desarrollaron en el marco de la defensa de la universidad pública y de las instituciones de educación superior públicas, y precisamente también por la gran convocatoria que tuvo y por la gran acogida que tuvo en la opinión pública del país. Nosotros tuvimos más de 1000 estudiantes caminando desde las diferentes regiones hasta Bogotá, más de 500, 600 y hasta 1000 kilómetros caminando precisamente para exigirle al gobierno nacional una solución frente a las problemáticas que estábamos viviendo en la universidad. Tuvimos chicos y chicas en huelga de hambre durante días en una misma consigna de la defensa de la educación. Los estudiantes de la Universidad del Cauca salen a la plaza pública a acampar bajo la lluvia y bajo el sol pidiendo unas reclamaciones, y que en ese sentido, mientras los estudiantes en Colombia participaban de acciones pacíficas, de acciones culturales, artísticas y de contundencia en la hora de sus exigencias, el gobierno responde con violencia, con represión, con gases lacrimógenos, con bombas, y de lo cual hoy nosotros hacemos la denuncia también pública frente al tratamiento de guerra que se le da a la protesta estudiantil y a la protesta social en general. Fue un acuerdo logrado a punta de sangre, por así decirlo, pero que es un acuerdo que hoy no suple todas las necesidades que hoy tenemos en las universidades públicas del país, y por lo cual nuestro horizonte es la educación gratuita, la educación pública y de calidad, y por ello seguiremos construyendo de aquí en adelante bajo ese horizonte en específico.
Gracias, Sara. She is explaining us that they reached this agreement for changing the financing of the universities, and it was basically thanks to the support of wide segments of civil society. And what happened is that when the students organized marches and demonstrations and even encampments at parks, the government responded with violence. When people in Colombia saw the way in which the government was responding to students and to their demands, they went out to support.
So what?
Tal vez hay un infiltrado del gobierno colombiano aquí. So yeah, public opinion responded in support of the students, and that is one of the reasons why they could reach the agreement. Thank you. And then I'm going to, I hope the person from the Colombian government who is trying to sabotage this is out. I want to ask you, Fasiha, what do you think about the fact that students actually manage to mobilize and make a change? Because changes happen. What do you think? What's the force behind, do you think?
Whenever we've seen major change in society, often, if not a lot of the time, students have been at the forefront of it. Students are very often the first group of people to take to the streets and to actually assert the fact that things have to change. And it wasn't just in South Africa, it's not just in Colombia, it's throughout the world, and we've seen it in fact throughout history, that revolutions and changes in society have been led by students and by young people. So, you know, for me it's fundamentally important, in fact, to support students and to give young people the space to be critical of thought and to challenge the ideas that are put before us and to challenge the status quo. In many ways, that's our job in society. That's what we contribute to society, to almost bring up a mirror to say, well, we're not okay with these things, and you shouldn't be either. And I'm saying this in a South African context, particularly because South African students have now raised a question of whether Rainbow Nation, it's the concept that everybody is living in harmony, despite the fact that we're from different racial groups. And young people in South Africa are challenging this norm to say, but actually, that's not the case, that we're not actually living with equal opportunity and with fair choice. And that was not a discussion that South African society wanted to have. They kind of wanted to pretend everything was okay. So students are, in a very clever way, able to bring these issues up, and not just to raise them, but to push them forward, and ultimately cause and result in massive ripple effect kind of change.
Thank you. Omar? I'm going to ask in English, and you'll hear the translation. Okay. So what we have seen in Colombia, the development, the way in which education has been transformed into a commodity, is the result of a long, long history in which also there's a colonial past, but there are many other things that have contributed to make the education a commodity. And you are starting, even if it's relatively recent, we have starting to see some changes like what you have been pushing for. So how will you continue working for changing the position of education in the country? And what is your ultimate goal? ¿Me entendió todo?
Sí, sí, es claro. Bien, esto quisiera. ¿Escucha?
No.
Hola, hola.
Testing.
¿Ya? No.
Do you hear him? No.
Do you hear? Ya.
Sí.
Ok. Quisiera iniciar diciendo lo siguiente: es para mí un honor compartir este escenario con dos hermosas y grandiosas mujeres como son Fasiha y Sara, que están enseñándonos a transformar el mundo. Creo que hoy debemos fortalecer más que nunca el liderazgo y el protagonismo de las mujeres, porque sin duda las mujeres están llamadas a transformar y a cambiar el mundo. Entonces, es lo primero que quisiera decir. Lo segundo es que nosotros nos oponemos radicalmente a la idea de que la educación sea concebida como una mercancía por 3 razones fundamentales. Primero, creemos que el conocimiento es una construcción social e histórica de miles de personas en el mundo durante generaciones que nos han permitido estar hoy aquí sentados y tener ese conocimiento de la realidad. Por lo tanto, no consideramos que el conocimiento sea producto de una acción individual, sino producto de las sociedades durante generaciones y a través de la historia. Segundo, porque consideramos que cuando la educación es concebida como una mercancía, reproduce privilegios y desigualdades en las sociedades. Cuando la educación se le agrega un valor de cambio, necesariamente excluye miles y miles de jóvenes en el mundo entero de acceder a la educación. Actualmente en mi país, menos del 35% de los jóvenes en edad de estudiar ingresan a la educación superior. Y tercero, porque asesina el pensamiento crítico, de tal manera que concebir la educación como una mercancía es totalmente perverso.
Gracias. Sí, lo voy
Al final.
Sí, lo voy a traducir.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Omar he wanted to thank women for their role in changing the world and to express his admiration to Sara and Fasiha. And he's explaining that the students in Colombia oppose this model of education in which education is a commodity that can be both sold and have surprise, because they argue that knowledge and knowledge production is a collective activity. Knowledge doesn't come out of a context or without a context or out of nothing. It's an activity that is anchored in history and in the collective effort of people. The other reason why they oppose education being a commodity is that it only reproduces inequality. And he is telling us that in Colombia, only 35% of people who could have access to university actually go to university. So the level of exclusion that education as a commodity generates is very high.
Okay. Alguna vez algún rector de mi universidad, la Universidad Nacional de Colombia, la más importante del país, llegó a afirmar que en nuestra universidad se enseñaba demasiado y por lo tanto había que recortar los contenidos curriculares. Creemos que nadie en el mundo debe estar condenado a la ignorancia y por lo tanto todos deben tener la posibilidad de ingresar a la universidad. Nosotros defendemos una idea de universidad en la cual la educación tenga como fundamento principal al ser humano y a la dignificación de la vida en sociedad. Una educación para la liberación, para la formación de hombres y mujeres libres, una formación que despliegue la capacidad de crítica y de transformación de los seres humanos sobre la realidad, una educación no patriarcal, no sexista, no machista, una educación que contribuya a realizar los sueños y las utopías. Alguna vez Paulo Freire dijo que quizás la educación no transforme el mundo, pero sí va a transformar a los hombres y a las mujeres que van a cambiar el mundo.
Thank you. He is also telling us that there was an extreme in which the rector of his university, Colombia's largest university, argued that students were getting too much knowledge. So they wanted to change their curriculum so that they received less information. But then they opposed that vision because they believe that universities should be based on humanist ideals of freedom, and universities should be places from where one is able to exercise a critic way of thinking about reality and society. And they also support a type of education that is not sexist and not racist, because they, inspired by Paulo Freire, who was an educator from Latin America, they believe that education is the only way that can help form the people that is going to change the world. So thank you very much. We have run out of time. So it was really very inspiring to hear your thoughts, and thank you. We see you later.
Thank you.
I could have kept talking Spanish with them, but I think it will not have been so much fun for you. The next group, in the next group, we have representatives from two large students' organizations. One of the organizations is the laureate of 2001, and the other is the laureate from 2003. They both won for their work regarding democracy and peace in their home countries. Please give a warm welcome to All Burma Federation of Student Unions and Zimbabwe National Students Union. I will start by asking some questions to Sinasu. And your organization won the Student Peace Prize in 2003 for their fight for students' rights and democracy. Today, you have still not gotten the right to organize yourself in student unions. But has there been any form of progress in the recent years regarding students' rights?
It has been 16 years now since we won the Student Peace Prize, and I would say there hasn't been any change since the environment Dr. Nkululeko Band has been operating in 2003 when we won the Peace Prize, up to now under the environment we are operating under the leadership of Archibald Madida. I think the students haven't gotten the right to organize themselves, to fight for academic freedom. The voice of the student is still not being respected.
And the situation has not improved even after the change of government?
Actually, after the military coup, the November military coup that happened in Zimbabwe, the situation has been worse since there's military everywhere and the soldiers are always around. It intimidates a lot of people and a lot of students. Then it becomes difficult even to organize anything.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask you a question. MINQ9 and ABFSU won the Student Prize in 2001 for their fight for democracy and peace in Burma. They are now represented by Ling and Aung here, and in an interview with SIEH in 2016, one of the representatives from the organization told that you are still working for peace in Myanmar. This shows us that it's still a relevant issue 18 years after you won the Student Peace Prize. Have you had any progress in your country?
Yeah. Hello? Yeah, there are some progress, but much need to be done, and I believe it is a long road ahead because the main fact is our constitution of Myanmar. And another constitution of Myanmar, military state control the key aspect of government, so the civilian government can do anything, and civilian government can control the military. And that's the main fact. And the second, we still have to build trust between different regions of Burma because we had in our country over 100 regions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you a question. We were talking a little bit backstage, but why do you think that students are often in the front line of demonstrations?
Oh, okay. I think for us to be student leaders in Zimbabwe, it's quite risky, but it's something that we are worth to fight for and to die for. We believe that we need to liberate the students of our day from the oppressive regime of our government. So to be student leaders in our country, it's a risky, and that risk is a risk that we need to take for.
But it's a very high risk, and I wonder, have you experienced that your leaders are sent to jail or imprisoned, and what happens to the organization?
I think currently, actually, after a shutdown that happened in early February and January, and late January, some of our student leaders are actually in exile, and it's now difficult even to organize the students. It takes us a step backwards because a little less number of people would then be willing to join our struggle, since we can guarantee their safety after the demonstration or after the government engaging the government. So the arrest takes our struggle backwards, which we hope would stop sometime soon.
Thank you. And then I have another question for you, and that is that there's a long. Also, in your case, there are many of the leaders in your organization that have been sent to prison. And how do you handle this challenge in your organization?
Yeah. This is, how can I say, that we had many challenges for that. We wanted democracy and we want human rights, so we are fighting always the military dictatorship.
Thank you. And then I would like to ask you again, do you do students in your country have support from other parts of society? What about the professors in your university, or do you feel alone?
Oh, I think we really do have support from other civil society organizations in our country. That's why you see most of the student leaders in Zimbabwe, they are being helped by some leaders from civil society, but it is very hard for lecturers to participate in student politics because they will be protecting their job. Yeah.
And how, can you just briefly tell us how violent the repression gets? What are we talking about when we talk about repression in the case of Zimbabwe? Or is it just that you are not allowed to organize?
I think maybe if you go on social media and even on internet and Google the case, students are being victimized by getting beaten, some sent to prison, and apparently for no charges. Some would be actually, held on remand, without getting proper court procedures, and they'll be released without any charge after, they've been tortured.
Thank you. Well, then I think just 2 minutes past the time that this should stop, and I think the microphone. So thank you. We admire you very much for the role that you have taken in your country. And we want to thank you because the work you are doing is important not only for you and for students in your country, but also for students all around the world. So thank you very much. We'll have a break and we'll be back here in 10 minutes past 7. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your short break. And now we are going to have 4 laureates on stage. And these laureates who will join us now have been working on a wide variety of problems. Their engagement includes the rights of the Roma in Croatia, human rights and democracy in Bahrain, the struggle for independence for East Timor back in the 90s, and for increased involvement of the youth and women in peace-building processes. Please welcome Antero Bendito da Silva, Dusko Kostic, Ayat Al-Kurmesi, and Hayer Sharif to the stage. Welcome. Welcome.
It's okay for me.
So, Antero,
Good evening.
welcome.
Thank
Isn't
you.
it exciting? You and the ETSSC were awarded the first Student Peace Prize in 1999. And you have been and are still very active in the political sphere in East Timor. You have been the driving force behind the establishment of the Peace Center of the National University of East Timor, and you are currently the director of this center. Your work has always had peaceful and non-violent means to work, and your movement has primarily consisted of students. Can you tell us a little bit now that you are the director of the center, what is the focus of the Peace Center of the National University of East Timor?
Yes, good evening to everybody. East Timor became independence in 2002, but one of our biggest problems in the country is education. So Peace Center was built primarily to look at how we, in an independent East Timor, can develop our education system that is correct, relevant to the country. And so our focus is right now on education, but using education also to develop the country from bottom. So we call it peace building from below. We make analysis also on the global education and the regional education needs. We come to conclusion that countries like ours and like many countries, including those that came out anti-colonial states, must undergo reforms, transformations in their education system so that we don't work in the shadow of all systems. Even today, there are climate change issues around the world, ecological transitions in the world, and universities, the education system, need to undergo critical analysis to understand the global situation in order to respond correctly and develop our own systems in the national education system. And so we focus on the education and also try to develop new regimes of knowledge and learn from other experiences. For example, today there is a debate about education that's centered on eco-epistemology based of knowledge development. In many years, we have focused on the human relations as a source of knowledge and development of epistemology. But today, it is the relationship of ecology and the humanity that produces a new regime of knowledge to be relevant to our developments globally.
Thank you. Dusko. You won the Student Peace Prize in 2011 for your work concerning the rights of the Roma people in Croatia. And you used education as a way of building bridges between the Roma people and the rest of the society in Croatia. Could you explain us how did you work with the problem and how have you worked with building these bridges between different parts of society? And why did you choose education as your focus?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Actually, I'm like to help to Roma children because parents is not teach enough educate and actually is not worried too much to education. And this is very long process because I think to something change and to prepare to better life and also better future for these Roma children when is the after 15, 20 years is the was to be parents. I think is the need to prepare to finish normally primary school and go to high school and also break prejudice and stereotype to other people who is not meet and they have contact with Roma people, especially young people. And also it's very important because I motivate to young Roma girl to continue to finish high school and not married too young because they have before this is story but this is not true. A young Roma girl is the married too young with 14, 15 and after this is they have baby. This is unfortunately a very big problem on all Roma in Europe, not just in Croatia and ex-Yugoslavia, but I'm trying to change my area because also I'm study, actually I'm start with 42 years because before is not have choice is to pay my study and also I motivate young people to also is the right and the finish faculty and also is the break and stereotypes and prejudice because a lot of people who is not meet again I tell is have a prejudice why Roma is the go to faculty and how is it possible to one Roma is the finish faculty. Actually I'm tried to change every opinion and view to other people and put to Roma to different position, actually integration, not assimilation. Because you and you, home is possible to talking different language, but when you're in the public, you need to know language where you live. And actually, this is very difficult because Roma is not have contact, lot of contact with other cultural. And for my activities and my plan is to change and to put Roma with other cultural and also other nationality because in my area is to live 22 different nationality. And also is to have better future for children who is the now go in the school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hayat, you won the Student Peace Prize in 2015 for your unwavering struggle for democracy and human rights in your country, Bahrain. I don't know if I say it correctly, but you can say it the right way, Bahrain. And you chose to express your criticism through poems. Why did you choose poems as a way of expressing yourself?
Yeah, actually, it's open.
Speak.
Actually, no.
Oh, yeah.
It's open, yeah. It's open, but it's not working.
Something is break. Do you want mine?
I think it's working now. Speaking now?
Yeah.
No.
No. Yeah. Okay. Actually, first of all, it's a very peaceful tool to express your opinion. And
I born in a family of poets. My father is a poet, and his mother is a poet. Most of my brothers are poets. So this is the way that we express ourselves. And I think it's really important to, in order to make our activism less painful, we have to mix it with art, literature, and poetry. So that's why I choose poetry to express my opinions and to show my peacefulness also to the government.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that, and this is something that I have thought many times, that because we can, use many means to many ways to express what we want, but there's also a dimension within human beings that cannot be reached just by reason, is feelings and is emotions. So what do you think about that in political action and political activities?
Yeah, actually, I'm not into politics. I'm into human rights. And although I criticized the government through my poems, but the focus was in human rights, and human rights are related to emotions. So it's good to choose poetry in order to reach the audience and express your opinion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm convinced that art is a very powerful weapon.
Yeah, it is.
And peaceful. Hajer, did I say it right? Hajer.
I think my mark. Okay, now it is working.
Okay. You were awarded the prize in 2017 for your work towards including women in peace-building processes. Through your organization, Together We Built It, you work for a peaceful transition in Libya. You have also been active in an implementation of the UN resolution concerning women, youth, peace, and security. Why have you chosen to focus on women in peace-building processes?
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Hi everyone. So this morning we had a workshop and I taught them how to say good morning in Arabic. Let's try if I can manage to teach you how to say good evening in Arabic. So very quickly. Masā al-khair. Oh wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah, it is.
almost better than me and Nayat, by the way. But why, through the Together We Build It organization and my work with them, I focus on women and young people in peace-building processes? Because I think it's almost for all of us. Whenever we think or hear the word war, we think of young men in the front lines and in a fighting scene fighting each other. Whenever we hear of conflict or victims of conflict, we think of these young men injured in hospital beds or being shot or even to an extreme where someone lost their leg or hand, etc. And whenever we say peace building, we have the same image of these young men, but without the weapons. And that's very much the very basic traditional thinking of peace building. But peace building and promoting peace in any context, it's much more than that. When we're talking about peace, we're not only talking about stopping and ending something negative, which is violence, but we're talking about promoting something positive. As you mentioned, human rights, dignity, it might sound cliche, but also like love among people. And that's what the Together We Build It believe in when it comes to including young people and women in peace-building processes. So what we do, young people and women are already working on ground. There's so many people who are doing tremendous work on a local level in a very informal way to bring people together. People on local levels are holding dialogues, debates, trying to do local mediation efforts, but unfortunately many of this very important role, it's not being recognized in formal peace-building processes. And what I mean by the formal peace-building process, which is pretty much the ones that we see on the media. Whenever we hear that there is peace negotiations taking place on the media, we see senior men with suits and really nice bags filled with papers, and pretty much it's very exclusive, this political negotiation. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to open up the space to bring the voices of women and young people who are already experts on the ground. And that's a narrative that we're trying, and what I'm trying to promote is that a peace expert doesn't need to be someone who served in the military or someone who has experience in security, defense, and logistics. A peace expert is anyone who's really willing to work and commit for peace. And I think women and young people has already proven throughout the years that they are the real peace experts. They are the real peace builders on ground who are really keeping the community together. And I mean, as much as violence that we see, for an example, in my country, Libya, as much as the extreme violence that we see, I'm quite sure that the work that women and young people are doing are preventing much worse violent forms than is being apparent. So women and young people play an important role in solving the conflict, but also in preventing the conflict. And that's something that's very important and we focus on.
Thank you. But I was also thinking, and we were talking a bit about this earlier, that usually, and this has been, has changed little through history, but women have, and if we think, as I told you, I come from Guatemala, and some years ago there was the first time in history of a case in which sexualized violence during civil war was brought to a national court, and judge and the military was found guilty of this type of violence against women. But what do you think is, because as I perceive what you're trying to say is that is to change the narrative of women as victims, or only as victims, but also recognizing, you know, the fact that you go to trail and you tell your story, which is extremely painful. That also is a way to revert your role and your position, and also the narrative. So I would like to hear, what do you think about that? Because it's also coming in other contexts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that I also touched upon in the beginning. Even when we say victims of war, the first thing that people will assume is that it's a young man or a man who's a victim of war. And we have this discourse in Libya as well. Whenever we're talking about the importance of women in peace building, people will say, but women are not suffering from the war. The ones who are dying are the young men or the men who are fighting each other. But that is not true, because whatever sort of violence that is taking place in a conflict, whether it is a direct fighting with weapons, but also there's other forms of violence, as you mentioned, for example, rape, sexual violence that is being used as a weapon in a war country, or any sort of conflict context. And I think it's very important that the women as victims is being recognized, as you mentioned, and it's very important in the same time to keep in mind that those women who are victims, they have the right to go to a national court or an international court, but come to the table, you know, where they can voice their opinions and they can tell their stories, because their stories should matter in the peace agreement, for instance. Their stories should matter in the way of going forward. And usually when we think, or any sort of peace-building process, it has different layers and it has different approaches. So when we're talking about social justice, for instance, that we need to bring people together, we need to hear the voices and the opinions of the victims, in order to really ensure that the process is healing for the community, we also need to hear the voices of these women. So not only injured men, not only men who suffered from the war, but the women as well, because there are not only victims, but there are also survivors, and there are also heroes who really have the ability and the capacity to make a positive change.
Thank you. And now I want to ask the same question to the four of you. And you won the prize as individuals Whereas in other cases we have seen that it was given to an organization, but you got it as individuals. Could you tell us a little bit about what the prize has meant for you, and if it has had an impact on your work since you were awarded the prize?
For me, first, the Student Peace Prize was awarded in a very historic moment where the country was undergoing change, and I was part of the history. It reaffirmed that our interventions on the ground, leading the transitions, using non-violent instruments, where students highly involved, was correct. It is an important message that actually soft, non-violent movements can also bring victories for people who want change. The second, after independence, ISFIT remains and the number increases, and I keep traveling to Trondheim. It's a great place to be. Norway has a great history of working with people through Nobel Peace Prize, and today we have a Students' Peace Prize. As a university teacher, professor today, my students call me brother and politicians call me professor. They call me brother because they thought I am an activist to them in the university. When you talk activism in university, you talk about university roles around the world. And very much today, why there are students' protests everywhere in countries even already many years have independence. It is because the university does not, they do contribute, but not yet fully contributed to the changes that people and countries need. Why? Because the social responsibilities of the universities had been undermined so many years. So activism, spaces where students provide in Trondheim through ISFIT and Students' Peace Prize, is encourage the university to think about social responsibilities of universities. There is no dichotomy between society and the university. In fact, universities should learn from people, from students, and professors must be ready to learn also from students, because they are no longer the center of knowledge. Knowledge, as people say, it should be developed collectively, and it is the interactions between today about people, humanity with the ecological world. And to me, it means a lot. I am trying to manage these tensions between my role as an academic in the university, on the other hand, the value of activism. To me, they have complementary. They don't have contradictions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, for me it's very important, actually, Student Peace Prize, when I'm here to actually people from Norway, from ISFIT, is they call me. And actually, I don't know where is the other people is to nominate me, because this is some sweet secret, actually, for me. And I'm very happy because I have best gift in my life. What is to happen when I have information, and also when is to tell me I'm a laureate for 2011. And actually, it's changed a lot in my life, in my work also, because this time I was student, and after this, and after when I finish my master, is the different view, and also is the change opinion to politics and the local government and also government in Croatia, because Duško is come from small town, Duško is Roma and very poor, and actually I have something big in my heart because student from Norway is to give me something what is the talking every day, and especially now when I'm back again to home, I call to media to see who is the respect me and who is the give me best gift for my results and also from my work. And actually I think this is good motivate for more work and also for activism, and also to motivate young Roma people, not just in Croatia, because I'm a lot of traveling and I have a lot of contacts with other people in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking at you,
Okay.
so then I can copy what you say.
Okay. It's working or not?
I think
Working? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it gave my country an international recognition, because before coming to ISFIT, not no one. I mean, many people are asking me, what is Bahrain? Like, what is Bahrain? So it gave my country an international recognition, because I met a lot of people from different countries who just knew about my country, which really helps to spread our struggle in my country. And of course it gave me kind of protection, because the government in Bahrain, they really behave with whoever have kind of highlights or attention from the international committees in a careful way.
Mm-hmm.
So it reduced the risk in my activism. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you touched upon something very important when you mentioned that we received the prize as individuals. For me, it truly doesn't feel like that. I feel that the prize went to the cause that I work for. So the participation of, or the role of women and young people in peace building. And I mean, I agree to what everyone said in terms of the tangible outcomes that the prize has gave us. But I think on a more personal level, let's say like the realization that came from the prize in itself, just the fact of how the prize is structured. I think first, the fact that the prize is coming from students in Norway, the fact that all the efforts around the prize and the structure of the prize in itself, it's based on volunteering efforts from young people who are only doing this because they are committed and because they believe in supporting a cause, even if it was not applicable into their context. I mean, I hear from so many people who would say, you talk about peace building, but what can we do if we are in a country that is not undergoing war? And that's not the case. In every country, there is a need for peace building, but also if your country is not undergoing a war currently, whatever your country, or let me be more specific, whatever your government is doing on an international level is affecting other countries. Mm-hmm. And earlier this morning you were talking about something that was very important, the importance and the value of one's voicing out their opinions. Mm-hmm. So Norwegian students being in Norway, talking about Libya or talking about Bahrain, it has a really great influence. It has a direct influence when Norwegian students will, for example, recognize a cause like this, where the government needs to take it into consideration, but it also makes a great influence on an international level, where these causes are brought into an international platform such as ISFIT. So it's not only Norwegian students who are recognizing this cause, but it's also international students. And I think this is something I think this is the great value of the prize in itself. I must say this, I truly love ISFIT. It's one of the best platforms I've ever been to. And I'm not just saying this, so you can invite me again to Trondheim, but please do. But I'm saying it because I truly mean it. There is a lot of international platforms that bring students, young people together, etc., and all different sorts of stakeholders on human rights, peace building, etc. But the fact that ISFIT is just being based on people are doing it because they think this is the right way to do it. They're not doing it because they are paid to do it. They're not doing it because they have this huge amount of funds to do it. They're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And earlier, when everyone was organizing this room, me and Nayat were standing there, and we were shocked because at some point we just saw more, I don't know, maybe 50 volunteers working and setting this up together. And we were like, you know, the ISFIT volunteers should be the parliament in Norway, the secretariat should be the government, because then, on your own, you will be able to change the world and make it way better. So yeah.
Thank you.
Run for an office.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It has been very interesting and incredibly inspiring to hear to your experiences and to your ideas and how you see the future, and it gives really hope. So thank you, and we'll call all of the winners and the funders to come here to the stage. But before that, I would like to close with some words. This, I do this freely. I was a little the thing that I could do on my own here. And this is a quotation from a book that is called The Road, written by Cormac McCarthy. I don't know how many of you have read the book, but if you haven't, I recommend it. And this is, it says, a father says it to a son. You have to carry the fire. I don't know how to. Yes, you do. Is the fire real? The fire? Yes, it is. Where is it? I don't know where it is. Yes, you do. It is inside you. It always was there. I can see it. So I would like to invite the rest of the laureates, I think, and you there. But there's somebody coming. Wait. Sorry. And to hand out flowers, please welcome Stine and Carl, head of the Jubilee project and head of the Peace project. Tusen Tusen takk.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah, it's very emotional.
Is it working? Yes. And now we will welcome sorry. Nauskoret.
Hey, we are Knøskore from the Student Society here in Norway, and we are honored to be here for the 20th celebration of the Peace Prize. A fun fact is that our youngest member is actually younger than the Peace Prize. And that's, that's Crazy, which is also our first song, followed by Welcome to the Mountains.
I remember when I lost my mind. There's some so pleasant about that place. Give your emotion an echo in so much space. And when you're out there there, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
And I hope that you are having the time of your life. But think twice. That's my only advice.
Come on now, who do you think you are? Ha ha ha, bless your soul. You really think you're in control? I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. Just like me. Five heroes has a heart, whose lives not on a list. And all remember is thinking of me like that. Ever since I was little, it looked like fun. And there's no coincidence I come. And I can die when I'm done. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe we're crazy. Probably. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe we're crazy. You gotta dig your body and your head down in the snow. You gotta tie your scarf around the bones to let them know. And I gotta take your arms around my waist and you'll take mine. We gotta move our fingers and toes, then we'll be fine. You're just more than zero, you don't know.
You're just a boy in city boy, you don't know what you listen. I say, welcome to the mountains. You're just a skinny little city girl, you don't even know who you're kissing. I say, welcome to the mountains. Doors if you wanna get high, goes to the sky. Welcome to the mountains. You're just a skinny little city girl, you don't even know who you're kissing. I say, welcome to the mountains. Dum 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 dum.